explosive. A major drug ring, dismantled. The location, a prestigious university campus. The suspects, 6 students, members of a fraternity and sorority. The seizure, thousands of ecstasy pills worth over $100,000. It was a story that had everything. A multi-agency operation, a dramatic police announcement, and a swift response from the university. It seemed like a clear-cut case, a major bust with a clear path to the courts. But that's not what happened. Because when we went to look for the court records, we found nothing. Tonight on the Underground Files, the Vanishing Ring. Let's go back to the beginning. March 2016. The Santa Cruz Police Department holds a press conference to announce a significant law enforcement success. They announced they had taken down a major MDMA distribution ring with direct ties to students at the University of California, Santa Cruz. The news spread quickly across the Bay Area. The details were specific. 6 UCSC students, all 21 years old, were arrested. Their names were released to the public: Mariah Dremel, Benny Liu, Cesar Casil, Nathan Tew, Hoa Nguyen, and Cecilia Lee. Police also stated that the students were affiliated with campus Greek organizations, specifically the Lambda Phi Epsilon fraternity and the Alpha Kappa Delta Phi sorority. This detail added another layer to the media narrative, and the scale of the operation was substantial. According to the police, approximately 4.1 pounds of MDMA were seized. That translates to about 5,000 pills. The estimated street value was put at over $100,000. The method was also outlined. The group allegedly received overseas shipments of MDMA tablets through the U.S. Postal Service. The packages were sent to 3 different residences in Santa Cruz. This wasn't just a local police matter either. The Santa Cruz Police Department led the investigation, but they had significant help. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Homeland Security Investigations, the DEA, and a county anti-crime team were all involved. The multi-agency presence underscored the seriousness of the allegations. And the framing from law enforcement was unambiguous. They used phrases like drug sales ring and drug ring dismantled. In response, UC Santa Cruz issued a statement, and the national chapters of both Lambda Phi Epsilon and Alpha Kappa Delta Phi announced they were suspending their UCSC chapters, citing zero-tolerance policies. So, from the outside, it looked like a major criminal enterprise had been shut down, and the consequences were immediate. With the headlines came the initial charges. And it's important to be precise here. These are the charges at the time of arrest. They are suspicions, not proof of guilt, and they don't guarantee a case will be formally filed in the same way. According to the reports from that time, 4 of the students, Mariah Dremel, Benny Liu, Cesar Casil, and Nathan Tew, were arrested on suspicion of 2 felonies: conspiracy and possession of a controlled substance for sale. The other 2 students, Hoa Nguyen and Cecilia Lee, were arrested for a different charge: possession of a controlled substance. The police also provided some insight into how the arrests unfolded. They said law enforcement had become aware of multiple packages containing MDMA arriving from overseas. These were tracked to 3 addresses in Santa Cruz: one on the 400 block of Locust Street, one on the 200 block of Castilian Terrace, and one on the 100 block of Peach Terrace. After the packages were delivered, police executed search warrants at all 3 locations. Following that, investigators from Homeland Security intercepted a second, even larger shipment of MDMA that was reportedly bound for the group. In the wake of the arrests, officials also issued public warnings. The DEA provided information about the dangers of MDMA, noting its psychoactive effects, including increased heart rate and blood pressure, and its potential for serious health complications. And the Santa Cruz police chief at the time raised a specific concern related to the campus environment. He noted that MDMA can lower inhibitions and increase trust, which he said could undermine efforts around affirmative consent on college campuses. So you have the public announcement, the specific charges, and the official warnings. The entire narrative points toward a significant case moving through the justice system, which is why what comes next, or rather what doesn't come next, is so puzzling. When a case of this magnitude is announced, you expect to find a public record, a docket number, court filings, motions, hearings. a paper trail. But in this case, that paper trail appears to be missing. We conducted extensive searches for any public legal records related to these 6 arrests. We searched the Public Access to Court Electronic Record System, or PACER. This is the federal database for court filings. We found no matching records. We also searched for any records in the Santa Cruz Superior Court system. Again, the online indexes provided no filings connected to this case or these individuals. There was simply no public docket to be found. So the question is, how does a case that generated so much media attention simply disappear from the public record? It's important to state that this isn't necessarily evidence of something unusual. There are several systemic reasons within the justice system that can lead to this outcome. It's a gap in public knowledge, but it can be a feature of the system, not a bug. One possibility is a pretrial diversion program. This often happens with first-time or nonviolent offenders. If an individual successfully completes the terms of the program, which could include counseling, community service, or other requirements, the charges are often dropped. The case may never enter the public domain in a meaningful way, or the records can be expunged later. Another possibility is that the case was sealed. A judge can order court records to be sealed for a number of reasons, making them inaccessible to the public. While this is common for juvenile cases, these students were all 21. It can also happen to protect sensitive details of an ongoing investigation. Then there's the matter of prosecutorial discretion. After an arrest, a prosecutor reviews the evidence. They have the authority to decide whether to file formal charges, what those charges will be, or whether to drop the case entirely. This decision can be based on the strength of the evidence, the allocation of resources, or other strategic factors. And finally, there's the jurisdictional question. With local, county, and multiple federal agencies involved, from Homeland Security to the DEA, there could have been a decision about whether to pursue the case in state or federal court. The path a case takes can significantly affect how transparent its resolution is to the public. This gap between the dramatic announcement and the silent record highlights a stark contrast between the media narrative and the legal reality. The initial narrative was powerful. The language used by law enforcement, drug ring dismantled, creates a very specific and permanent image in the public consciousness. It's an image of a problem solved, of justice being served. For many, the press release is the beginning and the end of the story. It establishes a narrative that is rarely corrected or updated if the legal process doesn't result in a public trial or a high-profile conviction. And the follow-up from media outlets often disappears for a simple reason. If a case is diverted, or if it's resolved quietly without a public court battle, it ceases to be newsworthy. There are no new events to report on. The story just stops. The impact of this is significant. We have headlines, but we have no resolution. Because we cannot find any accessible court records, we cannot responsibly state what the legal outcome was for those 6 UCSC students. All the public is left with is the memory of a major crime, with no understanding of the actual consequences. It's a familiar pattern in crime reporting. A burst of information at the time of the arrest, followed by a long silence. It leaves a significant void in public knowledge and accountability. Ultimately, the story of the UCSC MDMA bust was not a court story, at least not in the public sense. It was a record story, a story defined by the stark contrast between what was announced and what could be verified. And it underscores a vital point. Public records are not just administrative paperwork. They are the bedrock of transparency. Without them, we only get the first chapter of the story, and we're left to wonder how or if it ever truly ended. That's all for this episode of the Underground Files.